A look back at how the White House has explained the president's Saturday morning tweets accusing President Obama of tapping his phones. Joining us now, ranking member of the House Select Committee on Intelligence, Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff of California, who is holding a press conference with Republican Chairman Devin Nunes later this morning. So Willie's going to ask you the first question, but I just need to know, just to make sure everything's okay, did you close your microwave this morning?
I put tape all over the front of my microwave.
Did you unplug it before you left?
I did not.
Okay, you're going to have to go right home after the segment. Willie, guys, take it away.
Congressman, good morning. Let me just ask you in a straightforward way. You asked the Justice Department to provide the information, a pretty simple question, let's be honest, by Monday of this week, about whether or not the previous White House wiretapped Trump Tower in any way, and they've asked for another extension now on giving you an answer. Why is it so hard to determine whether or not this took place?
It isn't hard, and we'll have an open hearing on Monday where, if we don't get the written answer by then, we'll certainly get the oral answer that the rest of the country can hear at the same time. Look, I haven't seen any evidence to back up the president's claim. There isn't going to be any evidence about this because, frankly, if there were, I would know it by now. I don't know why it's difficult for the Justice Department to say that, but Director Comey will be at our hearing next Monday, and he'll have that opportunity.
But wait, why is it so important to press this question, then, if it's so obvious to you that nothing happened?
Well, I think what the White House tried to do was that they made this accusation of the former president, and then they wanted to bury it in a committee that generally meets in closed session. And we decided, no, we're not going to bury this in closed session. You want us to investigate it? Okay, we'll do it in public. I think we have to impress upon this White House that there are real costs when he makes these baseless claims. And probably the best example I can give is if 6 months from now he should say that Iran is cheating on the nuclear deal. If he's making it up, it's a big problem. But if he's telling the truth, it's an even bigger problem, because every time he undermines his credibility, it makes it that much more difficult for the country to believe him when it has to, and for our allies to believe him. And this way, I hope we will show him that there are costs to making these kind of claims.
Willie?
Congressman, as you said, this would have been a phone call away for the president himself or for anyone at the Justice Department. The day it happened, they could have made a phone call to see whether or not there was a wiretap. What's your suspicion about why we haven't found out yet?
Well, my suspicion was that, of course, the president made this baseless claim. I assumed from watching something on TV or getting some tidbit of information and deciding that, this has served him well throughout his life, lobbying these baseless accusations, and there's been no price that he's had to pay, so why not? And ever since his staff has run and dodged and tried to hide from whether the president of the United States misled the country on something so fundamental. I mean, after all, he accused his predecessor of being essentially sick. And I think if you look at what Sean Spicer has said, he said there's no reason to believe that the president was the subject of a court-approved wiretap. At the same time, Spicer has said we fully believe that he was tapped. So he is essentially saying the FBI must have been engaged in some kind of a rogue operation. That's absurd.
Well, I understand the White House, why they might be taking its time and slow walking, but why wouldn't the Justice Department be able to pick up the phone and tell you almost instantly whether or not there was a tap?
They could, and I don't understand why, if in fact the reporting is correct that the director of the FBI asked the Justice Department to issue a statement saying this is without basis, why that didn't happen. I can only imagine that the Justice Department didn't want to embarrass the president. But that's a poor reason for allowing the president's claim to go unrebutted when he's essentially accusing the department and the Bureau of illegality.
So, Congressman, why don't you just hit them with a subpoena?
Well, we will if necessary. I don't think that's going to be required because essentially on Monday we'll be able to ask the director this question, and I have to think he's going to answer it. I can't imagine he's going to come into open session and say, I won't answer whether the president was wiretapped by his predecessor. Obviously, the director of the FBI would be in a position to know he would have to have been involved. So I imagine that he will have the opportunity to refute that quite directly, and a subpoena won't be necessary.
So David Ignatius has a question. Just listen to you talk. It sounds like you're parenting the president.
Well, look, I think
without any snow. I mean, you keep saying that we need to show the president there are costs to making these claims, that you have to understand the ramifications of making baseless claims. It sounds like something you would say to a child that you are raising.
Look, you know, at a very fundamental level, Democrats or Republicans, we need the presidency to be successful. We don't want to see our standing in the world diminished. We don't want to give up our role as the champion of liberty around the world. This president is not yet standing up to his responsibilities, and you know, we're doing our best to impress upon him the gravity of his position. I'm losing hope, frankly, that that's ever going to happen, but we have to try.
When you're trying to raise a young, beautiful person, you want that person to be successful. It's like parenting. It really is. David Ignatius.
Congressman, putting aside the question of whether President Obama ordered a wiretap, you have been pushing, I think since last August or so, for a serious FBI, intelligence community-wide investigation of these allegations about Russia's activities. And the simple question is, are you confident that there has been an investigation of these matters going on with the appropriate agencies? And if so, is it possible there was some other kind of surveillance, not ordered by Obama, but some other kind of surveillance that would account for what we're seeing?
David, I can't, I'm not at liberty to give you a full response to your question. The only thing I can say is I don't think that what has been done has been adequate. And I would like to see an independent commission that has the staffing, the resources, that is outside the political process. I'm not saying that we in the intelligence committees ought to step aside. We have our own job to do. But I would have a lot more confidence if I knew there was a dedicated body that would have the credibility of the American people behind it, that would be able to pursue the evidence as we are and won't be inhibited by a lack of staffing or resources or any political consideration.
All right, ranking member of the House Intel Committee, Congressman Adam Schiff.